Hello everyone, my name is John Bussard. I'm an HPE Solutions Center engineer for Ingram Micro. I help support HPE servers, blade systems, storage, as well as networking technology solutions. What I like to do in my videos is show you a slide from a popular PowerPoint and then demonstrate to you what that means within a management context. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I have the opportunity to unbox a ProLiant DL380a Gen12 server. Now the A in DL380a stands for acceleration. Some people will say it stands for AI, but just note that this server is pretty significant when we look at AI workloads inside an environment. And I would say that'd be a common workload for this system. Now this is the second generation of this system, and there has been a significant change. The original Gen 11 version of this system was 2 rack units tall, and that system could hold up to 4 double-wide GPUs or 8 single-wide GPUs. But with this new version of this DL380a Gen12 server, this will be 4 rack units tall. And this allows for significantly more GPUs. For example, we can put up to 10 double-wide GPUs or 16 single-wide GPUs in this system. And quite obviously, they support GPUs like the Nvidia RTX Pro 6000 or the H200, but there's certainly a lot of other options that are out there. And they also support NVLink if the GPU does support it in this environment. Now, with that many GPUs, you are certainly going to need a lot of power for this system, but I think that's kind of expected when we start to talk about AI workloads. Now, this system can hold up to 8 power supplies, and 6 of them are dedicated towards the GPUs. Now, these power supplies are significant. For example, the one I'll be using in my system will be 3200 watt. There are some a little bit smaller power supplies that are available, but these power supplies do use a little bit different of a power cord. Not an uncommon one. There'll be C19 to C20 power cords. That's kind of that rectangular power cord. Your PDU probably has these connections on them inside your environment, but you do want to look to see how many of them you do have in your infrastructure. And that is certainly required because we are using a lot more powerful power supplies in this environment. Other things, obviously, with that many GPUs, we need that much power. We're also going to need a lot of connectivity. This system supports from 1 gig all the way up to 400 gigs today. Obviously, there'll be faster network adapters as they come out. When you start coupling these AI-based systems together, having high network connectivity between them becomes pretty important. And I certainly don't expect anybody to use a 1 gig connection for their AI solutions, maybe management, but certainly you want to look at some of the higher performance options for your environment. The system has the ability to go up to 8 terabytes of RAM. DDR5, if you go all the way up to 8 terabytes of RAM, you're only going to go up to 5,400 megatransfers per second. Right. If you go to 4 terabytes of RAM, you can still do 6,400 megatransfers per second. So the system is a dual CPU system, right? Just like the DL380 counterpart, right? So it supports Xeon processors in them. So we should probably also talk about the drive options for this system. So this system doesn't have any rear-mounted drive options for people out there who like a lot of storage in their environment. Now, there's still a lot of space to put storage, right? But I would expect for an AI environment, you want to use maybe an external, object-based storage solution, or other options out there are available. But inside the system, we can certainly install the beloved NS204 drive. So this is an easy way to create a boot drive that is protected in a mirrored set. Minimal management for this setup. It just kind of runs, and if the drive fails, you kind of pull it out and replace it, and it goes on. There is also front drive carriers. You could do up to 8 small form factor NVMe SSD drives, or if you want to go to a larger drive count, you could go up to 16 EDSFF NVMe drives, and that's what I have inside this system. All right, so that is our DL380a Gen12 server. Let's go and unbox this system. All right, so here's our DL380a Gen12 server in its box. As I always do, I've opened this up already, but I put everything back in, and this should be your experience when you do unbox one of these systems. So this is a CTO build, just so you're aware. So this system has a lot of power in it. So in here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 C19 to C20 power cords. All right, with all the GPUs and everything you need this type of power to be able to run this. Those aside. Over here is going to be, because this is a CTO build, this is the extra pieces. They like to put those in a bag. I also have an ILO advanced license in here. It's always important to make sure you look in the box and you find these things, especially if you got ILO. I would imagine that since this is a CTO build, this is probably like pre-programmed into the system, but in case I reset the ILO or anything like that, it's nice to have the extras. So there we go. And here is the ball bearing rail kit. Pull that out, take a look quickly here. We do have cage nuts, of course. We'll pull that off. The server is pretty heavy, as you can probably tell, so these are pretty significant rails. They're pretty standard if you've mounted any of the HP equipment before. So it looks familiar. Got some foam over here. A little bit more here. Could probably pull these out as well. And then we have our server here. So this thing's pretty heavy, so let me get this out and I'll position it so we can look at some of the features. Alright, so here's the back of our DL380a Gen12 server. So obviously we still have some packing on it, so let me see if I can get this off. There we go. So the first thing that stands out to me is there's 8 power supplies here. They are hot pluggable with the purple tab, so let's pull one out. And this is a 3200 watt power supply, 80 plus titanium. You can even see the percentage, 96% over here. As well as the connector for those power cables I was showing. Again, this is C19 to C20 connections. And the reason why we have so much power in this system is because the A in DL380 really stands for accelerator. You can get up to 16 single-wide GPUs in this system or 10 double-wide GPUs in this system. So a lot of AI horsepower in this box. I also have 4 network adapters here. Right, those 4 network adapters are going to be Mellanox, InfiniBand, or Ethernet. Choose one or the other. They are 400 gig, and although these look like a common connector, they are OSFP connectors. All right, so it's a little bit different. The port, protocol-wise, does downgrade, but you'd need an adapter port to physically fit in something like a QSFP 56 or 28 or something like that. Down here we have a VGA port, a couple USB ports, as well as our ILO port. And I think it's important to note here and here are unpopulated OCP slots. Now coming up on this side, on the top we have another Mellanox card. This is a 100-200 InfiniBand or Ethernet adapter again. This is the model number. This guy is going to be 3220. Right, and these ports are QSFP 112, and those are physically backwards compatible with QSFP 28 or 56. Right. Now we can also see an out-of-band management port for this guy, so just regular RJ45. That adapter is like a little computer. It's got 16 iron cores. It even has its little Linux operating system on it. It also has connectors here for precision time protocol as well, so if time is very important, you could do that. And sandwiched between these two adapters is the OCP thermal enhancement kit. Because we have so many high-speed adapters in here, we need a way of keeping those cool, and that's what that adapter is for. All right, so let's go take a look at the inside of the system. All right, so here's the top of our DL380a Gen12 server. Before we can get into this, we have to remove a couple screws, and there's a couple warning or orange labels on here that tell us about this. So let's take out these screws. This one I think is already open. I see. There we go. And like all HP servers, you have to pull this lever back, and the cover will come off. We have an air bezel here you can pull out. These are fans. They've got the purple label on them, so they are hot pluggable while the machine is on. Pull out this guy here. Take a good look at it. Looks like it's got one big fan and two smaller fans, so it's a little bit different. We'll see a lot of fans inside the system. Now you can pull out the entire fan tray, but it's got blue labels on it, so it's only pluggable, or when the server is off, you can pull this out. I have two Intel Xeon 6740p processors. They each have 48 cores each, and I have 16 96 gig RAM modules here, so it's got 1.5 terabytes. I don't know, we could see if I can get one of these guys out. Let's see. Yeah, that one's coming. All right, here we go. Looks like just a regular RAM module. Alright, back here are my PCI Express riser slots. Now, like I had mentioned, this is a CTO build or configure to order build. So a lot of these are all strapped down and the cable's nice and neat. So I don't want to necessarily unplug all of that. I'd like to show you a little bit of something, so I'm going to try to pull out this riser without trying to pull out the power connectors to it. So let me see, there's a little switch over here, a flip switch. You flip that up, and that goes back, and this will come out. But first, before you do that, you have to actually take this piece out over here. I need this screwdriver. Let's see. That's out. Out. That goes out. So this comes out over there. And then again, you pull this lever back, and then this will come out. And again, that's about as far as I'm going to go because we have power connectors, but this is 3 of my 4 400 gig network adapters in this thing. There we go. All right, let's take a look up front real quick. So currently I have one RTX 6000 Pro GPU in there. I'm going to add a second one, but before I do that, I kind of want to show you this part. So this sticks a little out in the front of the rack, right, and this is a fan. So if I pull this off and set this aside, you'll see I have some more fans up front here. And again, they're purple, so they're hot pluggable, so you can pull them out. All right, so all this is all passive cooled. That's kind of interesting. Just with these fans, we're keeping this cool enough for this environment to run. Now this is going to be the GPU I'm going to install. It's another RTX 6000 Pro. Alright, we can see the display ports. It's got 4 of them on the back. Not needed much for this system. And in the back we have one of those 12-pin power connectors that we're seeing on the new GPUs. Alright, so let's get this guy in. So we have to prep the system first. First thing we need to do is take off this bracket going across. Then we'll need to take out the shims. This is a double wide GPU, so I'll need to take out 2 of them. And then I need to get a power cable. So these are all the GPU power cables over here. So I need one of those for this, so let's get one out. Alright, spend your time and plug it in this cable. You want to get it in and hear a good solid click before you put it in the slot. Let's screw this guy down. Alright, I'm going to finish putting this guy together and then I'll show you the front of this system. Alright, so this is the front of our DL380a Gen12 server. Before I put the cover back on, I did want to point out that inside the cover is definitely what you'd expect as far as servicing the entire system. So there's a lot of great information right on the top. Now I have this crooked a little bit as far as the image so you can see the LEDs over there. They're not necessarily visible because this sticks out a little bit. Right, again, these are our 4 fans. But over here we have LEDs obviously for power. There's a UUID button. There's a health indicator as well as a network access indicator. There is an ILO maintenance port up front. They did change it to be USB-C on this model. And below is just a regular USB port. Let me put this back in view. We'll talk about the drives. Now this system can hold up to 8 small form factor pluggable drives in here. They're going to be NVMe, but they go in these bays here. Or you could have 16 EDSFF drives, and that's the new smaller form factor. Now I have that in here, right, so I can hold 4 drives. I also have the NS204i-U. Alright, and this is going to be the 480 gig variant. So let me see if I can't get some of these drives out for you. Right. So this is out of the NS204. Again, it's a 480 gig drive. I like these because they're easy to set up, kind of maintain themselves. When a bad one comes in, you just pull it out and pop in a new one. Over here, we'll pop out one of these EDSFF drives. Now this is a 7.68 terabyte drive. Right, this is a different connector. It's about as thick as maybe like an old laptop SSD drive. Right, and again, I could fit 4 of those over here. I have 2. Alright, so that's the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed the content, and please stay tuned for more videos.